I just love lemonade and vodka.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Wedding Chat with Jeremy Brech, Dave Ternier, and a special guest this evening with DJ Marz.
Hey, what is up, everybody? I am DJ Jer, Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
And I'm Dave Ternier, Manitoba, Canada. It just has a lot less oomph to it.
Yeah, that is not sexy whatsoever. But it's Canada, you know.
That's okay. You know, do they get summer up there?
They're going back into fall right now. It's going back into fall. Well, hey guys, tonight's conversation, I'm actually very excited about. I know you're probably thinking, how can this be exciting? Because of everything that's going on. As soon as Dave and I started talking about this, we're like, you know what? I think this is something that hasn't really been talked about a lot, and something that needs to be talked about. And they said, well, it doesn't make sense for a extremely pale white guy in Canada and a sunburned guy in South Dakota to be talking about a topic like this. And they said, who can we bring on to have this conversation? And within, 30 seconds, I'm like, I'm going to reach out to Marz out in Chicago. And as you can see, Marcellus is his full name. I only know him as Marz because for the last 8 to 10 years, he's always been Marz to me. He is a brother from Chicago. And, again, Dave and I come from small suburban towns, and you have, the metropolis of, the Chicago jazz and all this stuff that happens in his neck of the woods. And the blues. There we go. Thank you. But Marz is a fantastic entertainer. If you've never seen this guy entertain as an individual, or if you've ever been to a DJ conference and you see somebody busting a move on the dance floor, it's probably Marz. So thank you, Marz, for joining us. Again, today is going to be an awesome conversation that I think is going to be very powerful, and we're very thankful to have you here today.
Well, my pleasure, guys. I hope that first and foremost that your families and friends are in good health, during the COVID and everything that's going on. It's a real thing. Some people don't think it is, but it's a real thing. And I'm just blessed to be in good health and everything. So I'm ready for this. For this. I've been sitting back and watching the landscape and just waiting. I've been silent for a while because I wanted a platform that really would structure it in a way so that we could have a very transparent conversation about what I feel and what a lot of men like myself, black men like myself feel, and what you guys see. Because if you can't see what we're talking about, then we need to help your eyes open on both sides to understand why you can't see, and to explain to you what has happened and what we see as a whole.
Yeah. And, one of the things that I want to point out is we had a conversation before all this started, and, Marz said, I want you to be completely transparent. I want you to ask questions that are going to be impactful because people probably have the same questions and they don't know how to react to them. Yeah. So I am going to kick things off right away. I'm actually going to play off of what you had just said, Marz.
Can I interrupt for 1 quick second?
Yeah.
Marz would also say, if any of you have any questions that you're watching right now, please put them in the chat. If I'm looking down over here, it's not because I'm not listening. I am monitoring the chat as well here on Facebook and on YouTube. So if you all have questions that you want to ask of Marz, please, he's told us nothing is off limits. Thank you, Marz. And we'll get that in. So go ahead, Jer.
Okay. So Marz, you had said that you had been silent and you were kind of waiting for the right time or the right platform, like you had mentioned, to kind of speak your thoughts or to kind of project, what you want to say. And my question that I've been asked right off the bat is, I haven't posted anything on my social media. Granted, I don't post a lot on my social media anyways, but with everything that's going on, I feel that it's extremely important to back up the Black community and, everybody who's kind of going through the racial disturbance that we have. What is your perspective when people aren't posting on social? Does it feel like they're not being involved? Does it feel like they're not speaking up on behalf of the Black community and the DJs with, the Black DJs who are in the DJ community? Tell me your thoughts on that. What do you think?
Well, here's the thing. I believe that we can't individually pinpoint and say why a person is speaking up or not speaking up. we're in a time to where most of us, in our lives have never experienced the division in our country and what's happening. You know what? I just believe, like anything else, because of technology, we are seeing more and more of things that's been happening for years and years and years and years. Now, for me to say, I know Jeremy Brech in South Dakota, and why is he posting about this, is unfair, because the reality is that I'm not Jeremy Brech, and chances are Jeremy doesn't have this happening in his backyard. So why would he say something where he doesn't have the knowledge to be able to even comment on it, and being knowing that you are sensitive to just the way you are, the man that I know you are, you would never say something that you as a person and as a human being could stand behind with your integrity. I'm from a place to where that words are powerful, but we've lost the sense of our words having weight, saying what you mean and actually having that be your signature to who you are as a person. The way that I was raised and the way that I conduct myself and the way that I try to raise my twin daughters is do you, be you. Okay. My life mantra has always been, since I've known this, is my life is based on Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken. And if you know the poem, read it. But at the end of the poem, it says, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. That's who I am in a sense. And that just simply means that the best decisions you're going to make, even in these times, may be unpopular with the masses, but you have to take a place. You can't sit in the middle, because nothing in life is really like that. There's very few 50-50, unless it's in mathematics, but you don't love your wife or your children 50-50. You know what? You love them as you need it. They may love you 20% this day, and you may love them 80%, because that's what's needed for that day. Mm-hmm. So the perspective of people not speaking out, you know what? I can't hate on anybody for that. I've sat back because I feel so compelled to say this in the sense is that if I'm going to make change, I have a circle of people, both colleagues like yourself and friends and people that I love and around me. If I can't affect my own community, then I'm really speaking out of the side of my neck. So the thing that I can do right now to help move forward the thought process and conversation, and really to get people of non-color to understand really what I've gone through and why people are so obsessed in Black Lives Matter and all those things. You know what? It's because that you would never see this systemic social injustice because you're not brown. And that's as simple as that. You know what? And for you to stand behind the movement, before you to stand behind anything, you need to understand it. And I think that the divide of understanding it comes from the fact is that you can't walk up to some random Black person and ask them a question without worrying about them being offended. You have to have that connection like you guys have with me. And now you're comfortable because you're all intelligent. You're intelligent men. You know what? You do what you need to do. But no one wants to step into a place where they feel like that, you know what? It's like speaking Chinese. I may know a couple words, but I can't have a conversation. I need to learn it. And that's what I'm talking about. You need to learn. White people need to learn from Black people why I, as a Black man, is terrified driving home after a party. And that's real.
Yeah.
I'm double nickels. And every time I leave a party, you know what I say to myself? Please get me home safe. I have a protocol in my head that I feel, okay, this is what I need to do. This is the route I need to take. Let's make sure that I signal while I change lanes. Let's do this. Because I have been stopped so many times and never arrested, never given a ticket late at night. I used to have a Mercedes. I got rid of it because I kept getting stopped and the questioner was asking me, whose car is this? Okay. Those are real things that happen to me. Okay. The town that I have my business in. I've been in that town for almost 20 years. I've been stopped 14 times in that town and never, ever for anything that I was doing malicious. Where are you going? Have you been drinking? What you got in your car? And I'm the person that does the police national night out in Chicago, my company. I don't charge them anything, but I do it. So I can be very, very angry about that. But I also believe that you need to understand the jungle that you live in and adjust. But the things that are happening now are things that have been happening to black men and black people for such a long time. And it's not that you've turned the people that I know turn a blind eye. If you're in South Dakota or Canada, hey, our numbers are slim up there. It's as simple as that. Sometimes I say, sometimes when I'm doing a wedding, I look around the room, I'm like, whoa, I'm the only chip in the cookie. But it allows people to understand that I'm comfortable in my own skin.
So Mark, I've become slightly, somewhat on the other end of this spectrum right now, where, a couple of weeks ago, a Caucasian friend in Alberta changed his profile picture to a Black Lives Matter, the logo and such. And he wrote a really impassioned post about his decision to do that, to show solidarity with and everything. And he used the term anti-racist, and that all, white people really need to take up that baton and really become a part of the movement in that way. And I'd heard the term before, but I'd never considered it a whole lot. And I ended up, adopting this man's inspiration, and I have been posting a few things now. I guess what things might I need to be sensitive about? I mean, I guess I can only share my interaction and my story and how this all relates to me. Do you have any advice for somebody, I guess, that has thought about posting something but hasn't yet, because they're not sure if they're going to write something the wrong way? They're not sure if it's going to come off in a way that might do the opposite of its intention. I mean, I know for a fact there are a lot of people who are in that exact boat. Do you have any suggestions?
So the suggestion is that before you do anything, check yourself and ask yourself, why am I doing it? Am I doing it because I want to jump on the bandwagon? Am I doing it because I feel guilty?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I've been part of this problem. Okay. In that sense. Because here's the thing. If you do crappy things to women, to dogs, it's the same thing. You know what? It is unconscionable, the things that we've seen happen, and people, logical, intelligent people, looking and going, how is that possible in 2020?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it was like back 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I mean, the first woman to be integrated in schools is only 65 years old. Okay. And she had to eat by herself and in a room by herself, and still all those Jim Crow laws applied to her. She had to be, taken to school under guard and stuff like that. And she was a little girl, and she's only 65 years old. Come on. Okay. For you, here's the thing, is that our world, the entertainment world, is universal. So the one thing that I can share that is that, not just for Black people, but for anybody, is that I've heard people say, well, I don't see color. That is such a slap in the face to a lot of people, for the simple fact is that is almost an admission that you're not hearing and empathetic to what that person has experienced and what they're going through in that sense. You can't tell me you don't see color. We all see color in that sense. How we see it is the difference in that sense. When I look at Jeremy, I don't think this is some white guy from South Dakota. I look at that and I'm like, that's a talented man who knows his craft extremely well, and I can learn from him. I don't care if he was purple and green. You know what? I know that I can get something from him in that sense. By the same token is that, like I said, if you look at my Facebook page, some of the people that have been a part of my world posted on there, non-solicited about how they feel about me in that sense. I don't think that you should just jump on board. I think it should be, I think it should be just like practicing. It should be a daily thing that you do for yourself and if you have children and everything like that. My children are biracial, you know what? And their mother's white. And of course, I'm beautifully brown and all that stuff. And I think that the thing that has kept me quiet is talking with my daughters about this, about them being black and them being white, and knowing that the atrocities that have happened to the black community has come from the white community in that sense, and their mother being white, and asking them, well, what do you think about that? And even my daughters, they live in a world that this hasn't happened to them yet. To the fact that once, just a couple of weeks ago, one of their friends says, I didn't even know you were black, because Jeremy can tell you, my daughters are just absolutely stunning, really
They're
stunning,
gorgeous. Yeah.
in that sense. And I said, well, how did it make you feel? She said, she just thought about it and just talked with them about it, and then started talking about their dad and how much they loved their dad, how much their dad is an influence and stuff like that. I don't think that anybody should do something in this moment as a knee-jerk reaction. If you haven't already started practicing this in your world, where you may, maybe it's Eskimos in Canada, or Indians in South Dakota. If you have a feeling about those ethnicities in your world, and you haven't found yourself swept in the undercurrent of being in a room full of white people and hearing them dropping racial slurs, and if you don't say something or remove yourself from that situation, then you're part of the problem. You know what? You have to be brave enough to sit up to somebody and say, that's pretty effed up what you just said. You know what? Why do you feel that way? A good friend of mine, and we'll move on from this. A good friend of mine is Serbian. He said, you know what? I don't really get racist. And I said, why? He said, because they hate black people, and then they go out of their way to let people know their hate. He said, if I didn't like somebody, I wouldn't give them the time of day. And I thought that was so
interesting,
simple to look at that. Because if we don't like somebody, I'm not going to go out of my way and spend energy to destroy them, to tear them down or anything like that. I just know they're crappy people, and I need to stay away from them.
Yeah.
Right.
So Marz, I want to come back to your girls here in a little bit, because I think, as we look at the progression of, you talked about, you had a situation in second grade where you ran into some racial issues. I'm really curious to kind of get their perspective and how they see you in the entertainment industry as a black person. Do they feel like you talked about, you drive home at the end of the night after an event? What do they see? What do they feel? I want to come back to that. But I also want to talk about what Dave, you had talked about, the anti-racist. And one of my favorite movies, because it's such a powerful movie, is the movie Crash. I don't know if you've seen the movie Crash at all, but to me, that is such an eye-opening movie, because
is that the movie where these people were entwined by one succession of things? They didn't realize that they were connected.
Yeah,
I remember it. It's a while back. Yes.
Yeah, for me, it's a while back too, but amazing movie. But I don't remember. God, I hope you don't go into details. But I need to watch that again. That was a good movie.
Yeah. So basically, it shows everybody's perspective on racism. There's people who there's an Islamic person, and then they, their perspective is that person's a terrorist. The black person, that person's a gangster. A white person, that person's, they're all racist. And it's basically there's just this huge circle of racism in how everybody kind of sees that perspective. I guess we always kind of say, there's almost like this like the black person always seems to get picked on. But tell us, I mean, what is it in the black community? What do you guys see? Do you see the white people or the white community as racist, or you see the Islamic people? I mean, again, what is the train of thought for the black community? What do you guys see when it comes to racism?
Well,
as a whole, not just the black community.
Okay, so I can't speak for a community because I'm one individual. So
Okay.
what I can share with you is that up until I was in 8th grade, I hated white people, hated with a passion. I was born in the South, and every day was an adventure. And I can tell you, as a young black man below the age of 10, we used to meet at the railroad tracks and have rock fights with white kids. That's how bad it was. And then my mom moved away from that and moved to Kansas City. And I, as a young man, I had all this anger inside of me for what I experienced with white people. And that's where my hatred for white people came from. It came from experience. It didn't come from my mom teaching me or anything like that. It came from that. Now, mind you, my mom went through the civil rights movement, and my grandma used to tell me about people walking and seeing people hung in trees. So, I mean, so my experience was from my grandma and then to my mom and then for myself. So I had it in my head, that for white people in that sense. What changed for me was a white girl. When I used to come to school every single day, she would say hello to me and I'd say something not so nice to her for 3 months. And then finally I said to her, why you say hello to? Because I hate you. And she said, why do you hate me? Because I've never done anything but try to be nice to you. Wow. And I had nothing. I had nothing. So dialogue opened up. And ultimately back in 1978, she was my first white girlfriend. It didn't last long because I called her house. And back then the phone was in central location in the house. And her dad answered the phone. And I asked for her. He said, screamed up and she came downstairs. And when she got to the phone, he said, Rhonda, if this blank calls here one more time, I'm going to kill you. Here she is, and handed her the phone. And then that was on a Monday. And then she didn't come to school till Friday. And when she came to school, she had a black eye and had bruises all over her body. Her friend slipped me a note, say, if you care about her, please don't talk to her, because her dad had kicked her butt for me. So it came rushing all back in. And then I went to high school, and I was one of maybe 4 or 5 black kids in school, and I was a track star. So, in that sense, when you're a star athlete, people have a tendency to just keep it underneath their breath in that sense. But my track coach threw away all my letters to college, and I never, ever got them. And I found out because I was down watching a track meet, and one of the coaches came and said, hey, Lawhorn, how you doing? I wish you would have had you on my team. We sent your letters. I said, I never got them. So these things like that have happened. But then I went into the military. And when I went into the military, it changed me forever. In my room, I had Harry Horn, Little Rock, Arkansas. I had Leon Green, who was probably the blackest man I ever seen in my life. He was so black, he was blurple, black and purple. It's so dark. You know what? And Harry Horn, he was from Little Rock, and then Vinny Raffino, Bronx, New York. Now imagine 4 different types of music trying to go on in a room. But guess what? We had each other back. We learned about each other, and it started opening up. And then it kept evolving for me. Eventually I married someone who was white, had children and everything like that. But even throughout that process, my little individual things of being stopped, being called the N-word. I remember being called the N-word in the mall, and I turned to look at the guy. It's about 5 years ago. And because I accidentally bumped into him. I said, oh, excuse me, because I was looking back at something and I accidentally bumped, and he said, watch it in. And I'm like, really? I said, man, I said, sorry. I said, that's the best you can do? I'm so hurt. I'm so hurt because I don't own it. I don't own that word. I don't use that word. I don't own that word. You know what? And that's a whole nother discussion, but it's never been a part of my vernacular of my life and everything like that because of the destruction and the degradation that I've seen it do to people and the way that white people have used it as a device to trigger people, to trigger people who are maybe less in control of their emotions and stuff and get a reaction. The minute that, to give you an understanding, is the minute that if I'm animated about a subject and I'm passionate about something, I'm angry. But if a white woman's that way, you know what? It's not perceived that way. There's a bunch of perceptions that I really want you guys to understand is that you know what? Think about this. Is there a Jewish History Month? Is there an Italian History Month? No, it's not. We have a Black History Month in the U.S. I think that we have that because white people haven't truly understand that Black history is American history. It is American history. And the thing that is so unbelievably undeniable is that white people love our culture, but don't love us. Mm. They love our culture and don't love us.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect example is one of the many, many examples is that when Eminem came out, his sales and all those things, and now granted, dude's dope, but when the white community has something in their community that can emulate the Black community, but he's white, they're going to be ultimately successful. You know what? That's what happened to Elvis. From my perspective, is that Elvis could sing like a Black man, but in the 50s, you know, if he could do that, he made millions, and that, you know, in that sense. So those are the things that they're just little snippets of things that happen that people that you would never ever think about. Never ever think about. The slang, Jeremy knows the slang, the dress, you know, music and everything. The Black community has contributed so much to America. We don't need a month. We need to be recognized as part of American history. Mm-hmm. And I think that the pendulum swings so far because of the atrocities that have happened to us, getting killed, when you have from a traffic stop. How do you go from dead from non-registered license to being dead? It's because, you know what? Those people that are doing that, they come from a place to where that they have been taught that the value of a person of color is not the same value as mine. So when you devalue something, you know, it's like, here's the thing. If I gave you a jar of pennies, would you value it as much as I gave you $100 bills, even though they're the same amount? And the answer is no. Most people would say, which one do you want? Most people would take the $100 bill.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's the same value, and it's just perception. It's really perception. Like I said before, if you're already in your heart know that I want to treat people right and treat people good, then your mind is already open for understanding and questions in that sense. You know, Black people have had a really rough ride for the last 400 years. But guess what? Go walk on the street and try to find an American Indian. They got screwed.
You know, I want to bring something up here, Marz. I have been, since this movement has just gained this additional amplification, you know, since the murder of George Floyd and since, you know, everything that has subsequently followed, I have been finding more and more and more. I hesitate to use the word parallels because that equates equality, but similar topics and the themes to Canada's treatment of Indigenous peoples. Mm-hmm. So absolutely. The fact that you bring this up is really important to me because that is a massive problem here in Canada. is the treatment of Indigenous peoples. And I have been, I've been listening to, if anybody's never heard of this book before, Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates is an incredible, incredible book. Won a pile of awards 5 years ago in the United States. Basically, the entire book is written as a letter to Ta-Nehisi's 15-year-old son. And it is unbelievable. And it is providing me with just a lot of new ways to think about the treatment of Aboriginal people here in Canada and the manner in which they were forced, not their choice, they were forced to grow up. And so I just wanted to make that commentary because you brought that up. I think that's, for anybody who's from Canada who's watching this right now, I really, really, really strongly implore you to please, please, please do not be one of those Canadians, and I know many, who are like, this is not much of a problem up here. Seriously, give your head a shake. It's a problem, whether it looks exactly the same or it's with a slightly different race of people. That part really gets me going. I just had to comment on that.
I would agree. So Sarah and I actually had this conversation because that's what we see here. We have the Sioux Indian tribe in the South Dakota area.
Right.
And, I seriously don't think I've seen as many Black people in the last 2 weeks because it never really stood out to me. Before it was like another person. And in the last 2 weeks, I'm like, there's a Black guy walking down the sidewalk. I wonder what's going through his mind right now. I mean, that really has been, how does he feel right now? Does he feel like he's threatened? Does he feel that just kind of weighs on me? But again,
why does it weigh on you?
Great.
Why? Stop right there. Just let that marinate for a second and come back to it. Why does seeing that weigh on you? Why should you take that on unless you're feeling like you have not lived up to your own principles about people?
Because I'm a compassionate person.
Okay. So in that sense, that's what I'm saying is that I can tell you right now, there's a lot of Black people. We don't want your sympathy. We don't want a handout. We don't want those kind of things. We just want the same opportunities to feel safe with the people that are around us that don't look like us. Okay. Mm-hmm. The reality is that, and you guys have never heard this, but it's common around Black people. If a white man catch a cold, that's the flu for a Black man. It's 3 times, 4 times harder for me to be successful than it is for you. And it's simply because of the social injustice and the systemic things that have happened throughout the years in that sense. Okay. It's happened to women. It's happened to Indians. It's happened to people of color. Okay. And we're dealing in our country, but like you're talking about the Indigenous people in Canada, it's the same thing. It's the same thing in that sense. So I'm saying to you is that if you're feeling some certain sort of way, you know what? Your change comes from your community, the people that you talk to. If you have friends and you ask them, well, what do you think about everything goes on? And they share something with you that tastes like it's like rotten food in your mouth. You have 2 choices. You can say, F you, or you can ask them, why do you feel that way?
Yeah.
Dig deeper. Because, like the poem says, when you know better, you do better. Yeah. When you know better, you do better. In that sense, I'm a better DJ because I practice, because I know. That's as simple as that. It applies to everything. I'm a better father when I talk to my children as opposed to screaming at my children. I'm a better friend when I choose to listen with the intent to hear and not to respond, as opposed to someone says something to me and then I try to tell them what they should do. Okay? Nobody wants to be told what to do. No one wants to be manipulated in that sense. But by the same token, I do not want you to deny me as a man of color to say, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It is worse. And when the world got to see George Floyd, think about all the George Floyds that the world hasn't seen. Okay? Think about that. Think about that. And you can't even imagine. Your stomach would do flip-flops and it would turn over and you'd be completely upset as a human being. Okay? We do not want to be treated as a second-class citizen. We just want the opportunity to be able to live our lives, and me not be in fear of me, doing an event and then not making it home because some guy had a hard on for someone of color and decided to make my life difficult.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Is that, and this is something you should think about. The last time I got stopped, I had my van. My van is unmarked. I have two vans, an unmarked white van. I'm driving at 2:30 in the morning. I'm 5 minutes from my house. I'm the only vehicle on the road. I see a vehicle about a quarter of a mile down the road with headlights coming up to me very, very fast. Didn't even know where it came from. I'm driving home. Didn't even know where it came from. And when I get there, I am so terrified when he stopped me. He said, well, you're weaving. And he said, you've been drinking. It goes, it's 4th of July. I said, no. I said, just got back from Lake Geneva doing a party and everything like that. Before that conversation ended, there were 4 police cars there for one van. And not once, he said, license and registration. And this is what you tell yourself. And this is real. Do not take your hands off the wheel. Do not look them in the eye. Do not take your hands off the wheel. I need your license and registration. It's down there. It's down there. I had my hand on it and I'm like, it's down there. Could you please shine your light down there so that I can get it? So, come on, Sean.
Is that Big
Watch
Daddy?
the show. It's down there. When I turn to get it, I'm looking back at the cop and I said, please don't shoot me. That's the first thing that I said. You know when this happened? Last year.
Wow.
I'm 5 minutes from my house. What you got in the van? I said, open it up. I got DJ equipment. Is it yours? I'm like, man.
Yeah.
I said, if you run my plates, it'll tell you who it belongs to and it'll tell you who owns it. It's me. I said, I got 5 minutes in the tank before I get woozy and I won't be able to drive. Please let me go home. And guess what? After 10 minutes, they let me go. They didn't give me a ticket. They didn't give me anything. 4 cops for one guy driving home after a party. And it's only because the color of my skin. Because had it been a white woman, you know what? She'd have never been stopped.
Mm.
And when you deal with that on a regular basis, it's almost like everybody has aches and pains in their body that they're just used to. So you adapt and move forward. But it doesn't mean that you forget the treatment of a grown man who has a business and responsibilities being reduced to ashes because of people think that we're less than who they are. And that's what white people need to understand. If someone took your child and made them feel less than who they are, that's what happened to young black men. Young black dads have to tell their sons about the speech and them driving in the car. Okay? They have to give them be armed with some ammunition so when they get stopped, because guess what? Our lives are like leaves in the wind. You know what? In some sense. But that's not everybody. That's not everybody. The problem, I see it, and this is just my opinion, is that the police can't police themselves. The code of blue has been so strong that policemen, there are good police officers out there that are taking massive hits for bad cops that shouldn't even be in the system. Mm-hmm. Based on the record of Chauvin, Officer Chauvin in Minnesota, he shouldn't have still been on the force. If it had not been for the union, if it had just been an employee, he'd have been fired. You know, and the police can't police themselves, and the public doesn't trust the police. I can tell you right now, there's no way in the world I'm ever going to feel comfortable around law enforcement simply because of my experiences, and nothing's going to change that. Nothing's ever going to change that because I have a lifetime of being stopped, being accused ask any black person that you may know, and they've heard you fit the description of, which is just a convenient way to say we want to stop and humiliate you and do this to you and do that to you for no reason other than the fact is that this show of power. You know what? Call me sir. I'm like, listen, I'm driving home. Why should I call you sir when your name's Officer Steve? Okay? Yeah. And your badge is yes, Officer Steve. No, you call me sir. I said, why should I call you sir when you're Officer Steve? I've given you everything that I need to give you. You know, why was I stopped? And maybe get a reason why. Do you know? I would say 68% of the time, and that's rough, that I've been stopped, I haven't been given a reason. And I know what the reason is. It's DWB, driving while black.
Yeah. So, okay, Marz, I want to dig in. This time has gone way too fast. And John, are you on right now?
I am.
Hold on a second.
I've been listening here in the office, yeah.
Can we go over by like 5 minutes or so?
If Marz is good and Dave is good, I'm fine.
Okay,
listen, you guys can roll.
I'm good for 30 minutes over.
Well, we've got to 5 to the hour, and I got to switch at 5 to the hour.
Right. Okay. So what I really want to focus on now is, I mean, you've really talked a lot about personal and the strength that you've had, you know, through your personal growth in the struggles that you've gone through. What I want to ask is, I really want to focus on the DJ industry and how the black community is now going to be perceived with the rioting and everything, you know, this whole Black Lives Matter. How do you see that changing your business as a DJ company?
It doesn't change my business because as much as clients interview me, I interview them. Mm-hmm. I walk away from people that I know I have that feeling with. Mm-hmm. What I want to say is this: for the mitzvah community needs a wake-up call. You know how many times a mitzvah community say, I prefer a black MC, I prefer black dancers and stuff, not even realizing what they're saying. Party planners say, can we have a black MC? And then I'm a black person hearing this going, this is a little messed up. It's a little messed up. And then say, me asking why and them being uncomfortable with trying to answer. You know what? They seem to have a little bit more, you know. I'm like, why don't you just throw poo in my face? Because that's exactly what you're doing. Not understanding it. What party planner would ask a black-owned company, can you make sure one of your black MCs does a party because mom likes black guys? You know how many times I've heard that Jewish moms like black guys to do parties? Way too many than I want to hear. And it's BS. And in the DJ community, in that sense, is that the white owners of entertainment companies really need to check their clients in that sense and say, you know what? And then I know some pretty talented white people. Yeah, but I want a black guy. You got to really sell me on why you feel that way. And then you have to say, do I really want this type of client? Right. No, and that's the problem, is that green is the color that people will adhere to on any color. If you had to choose black or white, most people would choose green. And remember that always. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because everything has to do, all this stuff that is happening in this country has to do with green. Green. In that sense. And the more green you have, the more you can control, the more that you can deny, the more that you don't have to look at things, you know, because it doesn't, you know, Black Lives Matter doesn't affect a billionaire, but a billionaire can affect Black Lives Matters, or, you know what, the plight of women trying to get through the corporate world, or homelessness and anything like that. But why should they do it when it doesn't matter to them and it doesn't affect it to them? It takes a person who's unbelievably selfless and philanthropic to jump into that and say that. But the next time someone asks you, well, you know, I want this type of entertainer, you need to ask yourself, this is happening right in front of me. Wow, what am I going to do? How am I going to respond to that? This is my client. She's paying me. I don't want to lose the job. And if you're a person that believes in green over brown or black or blue or red, then you know what? You're going to continue to be part of the problem.
Yeah. I certainly don't mean, I'm no poster child for any of this, but, a couple, 2 weeks ago, a fire across the back alley at a neighbor's place. We talked about this topic a bit, and, I basically said to all of them, look, no more do I stand idly by, and this is not me just jumping on some bandwagon. I said to them, I don't care if I'm the most awkward. I won't swear, John, I promised. I don't care if I'm the most awkward guy sitting around a campfire calling something out. But if I hear something that needs to be called out, I just want all of you to know right now that I am going to be that person, if that's what you want to call it. Now, I'm no poster child for anything like that, but even me stating that created an uncomfortable stir in the air.
Yeah, but if you're stating that and it's uncomfortable, and people have to be uncomfortable before they get comfortable.
Well, and that's where I wanted to go, 100%. 100%.
Listen, I started doing bar mitzvahs. When I first started doing bar mitzvahs, I had no idea about the Jewish community. You know what I did? I sat down with rabbis and talked to canners and talked with families about what it meant to be a Jew, and why you throw this party, what's this celebration mean to your family, and Lador from generation to generation, and that kind of stuff. And now I'm educated and I can approach it from a sense of calm and knowing, because I have learned. And simply, I think that when you have an opportunity to learn from a black person, a woman, whomever, as it specifically talks about race, a person that's a different ethnicity than you, and you want to learn, you know what? Conversations start as have you ever experienced something that made you, Scooby-Doo, around here? And what did you do about it? Because you can be angry, but that's like putting gasoline on a fire. It's never going to burn out. You know what? You have to educate people and stop people and not allow it to happen when you're if you're in a room, if I'm in a room full of black people, we ain't talking about white people. Okay? But if a room full of white people around, somebody's dropping the N-word as a reference to say something about something they don't like, something that means less to them, something that means that's devalued. The word is used to devalue something in a conversation, and it's pointed toward people of color. And that's what I've experienced. I experienced that when I was in a room full of people and they started saying things about Jewish people that I'm looking at them going, what the hell are you talking about? No one says, here's the thing. I'd go back to the thing you're talking about, in the mitzvah industry. Do you go to the doctor and say, I want a Jewish doctor? Or do you go, I want an Italian lawyer? No, you don't. You don't.
Yeah.
So why should it be okay for people to put that label on people that way? And it's really simple from my perspective, is that most people need to put things in boxes so they can feel comfortable. Okay. Now the boxes and the walls of the boxes are broken down. What are you going to do? We can talk about this till we're blue in the face, but what is Canada going to do? What is one person going to do to make it happen? Because at the end of the day, this world that we leave is for our children. Okay. What kind of world do we want to leave for our children? And if we are not the examples now and step outside of our comfort zone and speak up and talk about things that are uncomfortable and get rid of people in your life that share views that are not consistent with human kindness and generosity and that stuff, then you know what? Just sit and enjoy your life, do what you need to do and stick your head in the sand and say, it's not my problem.
So Marz, we've got about 2 minutes. I want to kind of end with what would you say to the DJ community with everything? And it doesn't have to be just Black Lives Matter. I mean, let's talk about this in a full perspective. If you had something to say to the DJ community, Black, white, Asian, whatever it is, what is it that you feel like you can share to make a difference in our DJ community? Oh,
this is easy, man. DJs love people. It don't matter who it is that's in front of them jumping up and having a good time. Whether it's the bridesmaid or it's the CEO of a party, we love people. We love to see people. If the DJ community could have in this world, what we see on a regular basis on the weekend, we wouldn't even be talking about this.
Yeah.
People have a great time. They lose their inhibitions and they forget about the fact is that, you know what, they have to do this, they have to do, they're in the moment. So the DJ community is so important for healing this, helping heal this and sharing people. Is that every event that I do, it's not like this. I don't care if you're doing a Southern rock party or an Indian party or hip hop party. It doesn't matter. Music is the one thing that is universal across the thing. So I think the DJ community should just use the music and our experiences with doing multiple events, corporate, personal, anything, and sharing it like this, that my world is not like what's happening right now. Okay. The people of color that I know, they're dope. The people of non-color I know, they're dope. This guy's awesome. He's helpful, this, that, so on and so forth. The DJ community can teach us a lot about what's going on.
Yeah.
But what's happening right now is very, very real. Ask more questions and humble yourself to know that, you know what, you may have been part of the problem, but you shouldn't feel guilty about that. You want to be part of the solution. And that in itself will allow you to lay your head on your pillow at night and wake up and look at your children in the morning and say, I'm leaving the world better for you because that's what you deserve.
That's awesome. You're right. For those of you watching, before we started this, Marz was like, you know what? I have like a 10-piece series that I could do on this whole conversation. And I completely agree. We probably could.
Yeah.
You know, as things are kind of progressing, we would love to have you back and just see, you know, what have you seen in the last couple of months with the change and, you know, where things are headed, where things are going. And then also just check in with you and your family. Like you said, you know, you have 2 beautiful daughters. They're amazing. And you have been an amazing father for them. And I think that is the impact that so many of us can make. It's not what we do. It's not what we do for ourselves. It's what we do for our children to understand we are the human race. And like I said, you are an amazing father. You have amazing kids because of who you are. So thank you so much.
I just say, you guys, white guys, start at home. If you start at your home, and that's dropping a stone inside of the thing, and then letting the ripples go out. Start at your home, then start with your friends, and then things like that. But you can't shove it down their throat. You have to let them put their toe in the water.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like you don't push somebody in the pool. You let them sit on the edge and let their legs dangle for a while so they can get it, and then they can jump right in.
Well, I would push my kids in the pool, but that's just me.
Yeah, you know, this is just a small little thing, but there's a list of anti-racism resources that's been shared widely around the internet, and I was digging through that the other day, and you know what? We found some incredibly highly recommended books for young children that are recommended reading. So we ordered up a few of those for the girls here, and it's just a small pebble, Marz, in the pool that you mentioned. But you know, I really hope that it just helps my kids know that there's a way bigger world than just Manitoba or South Dakota.
Yeah,
absolutely. Listen, guys, thank you very much. I appreciate it in that sense. And, you know, let's get back at it, you know, talk about this and other things. And, you know, like I said, if you need me back, I will certainly, I mean, we could go on and do some deep dives in some specific areas and stuff like that. Don't feel guilty unless you've done something wrong.
Right.
Amen.
And don't feel guilty by not knowing what to do because you just wasn't taught.
Yeah.
True.
But you can learn.
Thanks for giving us some of your time. Thanks for sharing with us some of your story. It is. Thank you so much, Marz. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, I was just going to check out. Hey, I am Jeremy Brech, DJ Jer out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
I'm Dave Ternier, Special Request Weddings in Manitoba, Canada.
And I'm Marz from Charisma Entertainment in Chicago. You know what? Do you, be you, everybody. Let's heal. Let's learn and heal. I'm
Love
out.
and peace, everyone. Take care.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Good night.